Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about two things. I'm going to be talking about economics, like the introduction of economics and some vocab and stuff like that. And we're going to be talking about algebra, such as we'll be talking about its origins and some definitions, and we'll be doing kind of an example. So we're going to kick things off starting with economics. There are two types of economics, actually. There's microeconomics and then there's macroeconomics. So in microeconomics, you have the study of individual actors, and these actors can be like firms or households, just smaller based things. And these actors, like these firms and all that, they make decisions or allocations of their scarce resources that they may have, which I'll get into what scarce resources are here in a minute. Macroeconomics they aggregate the economy, and there's millions of actors. Macroeconomics deals with bigger companies. So getting into what scarcity is. Scarcity is the amount of something to go around. Scarcity is how much of a resource that there is. There are two types of resources, actually. There's a scarce resource and then there's a free resource. So scarce resources are something that there isn't an infinite amount of, that it seems like. That it's kind of harder to obtain, if that makes sense. A free resource will be something that can go around to everyone, and seems like there's an infinite amount of it. So an example of a scarce resource would be caviar, which caviar is a fish egg that is kind of hard to obtain because you have to go down in the water and find these fish eggs. And yeah. And another example of a scarce resource would be labor, actually, because the reason why labor would be a scarce resource is because yes, you will find people who will work, but nobody will really work for free anymore. So nobody will work an infinite amount of hours if they're not being paid a good amount. So that is the reason why labor is a scarce resource. A free resource would be air, actually, because even though we don't have an infinite amount of air in the oxygen, the amount of air that you breathe in is not going to affect the amount of air somebody else gets, because it seems like there's an infinite amount of air in the oxygen and an infinite amount of air in the atmosphere. Okay, so there's in economics, there's two types of statements. There's a normative statement and a positive statement. So a normative statement is basically more based on opinion, and a positive statement is basically more based on something that can be tested. So I have two statements here, and I'll come up with maybe a couple of my own. But one of them says, paying people who aren't working that could work is wrong and unfair. Now, you would put this statement in a normative because it is opinion-based, because you hear the key words like wrong and unfair, because this one person is saying that it's wrong and unfair to them or to people like them, because you can tell it's opinion-based just by those two words. Now, a positive statement, here's one of them I have written down. Programs like welfare reduce the incentive for people to work. Now, this one is not opinion-based. It's just saying an idea that could definitely be tested. So, if you're gonna say like, wealthy people should not have to pay taxes so the poor people can get a living, that they shouldn't. Yes, that can kind of go both ways, because you're saying they shouldn't have to pay taxes because to get the poor people to make a living. You could put it in normative, and this is where it's kind of stuck because you don't know what to put it in, normative or positive. But you will put it in positive because it's an idea that can definitely be tested, because what is it? Wealthy, you could taxing the wealth. People think that taxing the wealthy will give the poor a better living, which everybody is entitled to their own opinion. Which, when you're saying what keywords like shouldn't, that's obviously meaning opinion based. But if you're saying words like, if you're saying words like programs like welfare reduce the incentive for people to work, you're kind of stating a fact in your own mind, and it's something you can test. Next thing we're going to be moving on to is we're going to be moving on to mathematics. So, algebra. Algebra is the restoration or completion of something. Algebra actually started back in 2000 BC, before Christ, in Babylon. That's the earliest examples we'll see algebra from. So, so a key word that algebra will be using is abstract. An abstract is is something that exists in thought that can't really be put into a concrete understanding, like physical understanding. So letter symbols in algebra tend to conjure up things. So say you're going to say you say that somebody has a dog. You immediately conjure up a dog. You don't know what kind of breed of dog this person has. You just conjure up a dog in your mind, thinking it's a big dog or a small dog. You just conjure up an image. And another image you can conjure up is, say, the number 5. But this visual number, the number 5, can appear in multiple different ways. You can have tallies of 5. You can have the Roman numeral 5, or you can just have the letter, the number 5. I have an example of a mathematic problem. So this problem is, say you're going to go shop at a store, okay? And they're having a sale of 30% off on all shirts. And say you want to buy we'll say a $20 shirt. You would write an equation, so your discount is 30% off, and you're going to do 30% times the amount of that shirt, which was $20. So, or you could do 0.30 times 20. That's another way to, write that equation. But let's say that X is the non-discount price. So now instead of 20, you can use a variable for 20 to define anything in that store, any shirt. So you would have your discount would equal 30% times X, or 0.30 times X. And now we'll say that we'll let P be the percentage off. So now instead of writing 30% or 0.30, you would write discount equals P times X. That's your equation. Now say that we want to let Y equal the price after the discount. So then you would have Y equals P times X. And by doing this, then you create yourself a complex equation with just variables, but you defined all these variables so you know what each variable means. So you have Y, which equals your total price after the discount, P, the amount of the discount, the percentage, times X, the price before the discount. So, equations like Y equals P times X, algebra can apply in economics, finance, logic. Algebra can apply in almost anything in your daily life, really. You can come up with an equation out of pretty much anything. So, and another thing you can do is you can manipulate the variables in an equation to find the given value of something. So, say you have your equation Y equals P times X, but you want to figure out how much P equals. So here, I'll write this down real quick so I can show this in a better example. So you have your equation Y equals P times X. Now what you'll do is since you're multiplying, you will do the inverse of multiplication. You will divide on both sides. That will cancel out. Divide. Then you are left with Y over X equals P. So P would equal Y over X. P equals Y over X. And that is pretty much the basic gist of algebra that I got for you today. In conclusion, for both economics and algebra, economics is the see if I can find my paper again. Let's see if I can. No, I was gonna say it. Economics is the it's like a study of value of something. You have, like I said, you have your microeconomics and your macroeconomics. Microeconomics focusing more on smaller things like firms and households, while macroeconomics focuses on, like, say, multi-million-dollar businesses or bigger actors in economics. While in algebra you have algebra, started a long time ago in life, and they used it to try and give a visual understanding of something, and to communicate and write down these problems in variables to better write them down in a shorter, more complex version. But that is pretty much all I have for you today. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Bye.